Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon. And check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. And today I am joined with Dr. Katie Lee. Katie Lee is a dentist and founder of Collective Health Society, which is going to be opening up in February. And she has quite the story and just a very entrepreneurial person doing great things. And Dr. Katie Lee, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
We chatted a bit before you came on, and there's so much that I want to get to that you're up to, books, a new center that you're opening up. But first, how did you even get involved with dentistry? How did you choose to become a dentist?
Yeah, so it all happened on July 5th, 1998. I had just gotten home from boating all day at the lake, and I hopped on our four-wheeler, did not put a helmet on, and crashed headfirst into a telephone pole going 35 miles an hour. As you can imagine, I broke every bone in my face from my eyebrows down, lost a bunch of teeth, was in a coma for several days. And when I woke up, I had my jaws wired shut for about 8 weeks. And, just thinking about all the broken teeth, the missing teeth, the dental infections that I had while my jaw was wired shut, for the next 8 weeks, I survived on, milkshakes, ice cream, box mashed potatoes, pudding, jello, all the things that you should never eat. But, I couldn't really eat anything else because my jaws were wired. And so all those teeth just decayed, started getting a lot of dental infections, became severely malnourished. So my liver enzymes spiked, kidneys started shutting down, and I became emaciated. And so I learned at a very young age just how much your oral health affects your systemic health. And when I got my wires off, I was so excited to have my first solid meal, and my jaw was actually fused shut. And so it took 8 more reconstructive surgeries to be able to open my mouth. So it was 4 years before I could open my mouth, 4 years before I could replace my missing front teeth, and 4 years before I could fix all the dental infections. So I suffered for quite some time, and my dentist changed my life. I mean, he was the only provider that really took the time to listen to me and show me empathy during that process. Because all the doctors, I remember them transcribing the appointment on their little voice recorders right in front of me as if I was, just some sort of fake patient. And there was no humanity or empathy from them. Whereas my dentist, he really took great care of me. And I remember when he restored my smile with dental implants my senior year, just before prom. And I looked in the mirror, and I mean, just tears went down my face. I didn't have to wear fake teeth anymore, flippers. And I said, that's what I want to do for people. So that's how I got into dentistry.
Wow. And how old were you when the ATV accident happened?
14, going into high school. So that's not the time as a high school girl, right, that you want to mess with your face or your teeth or your smile. But yeah, I entered high school pretty mangled.
And was this a near-death experience? Did you almost die?
I mean, that's hard to answer. I don't know what exactly classifies as a near-death experience. I should have died. I should have been brain dead. I should have been paralyzed because I hit it head first with no helmet. So, I mean, if you just think about the whiplash that you get from that, I mean, I should have broke my neck. I don't know how I didn't break my neck. because it was a straight impact. I don't know how I didn't have brain damage, although my husband probably thinks that I do have a little bit of brain damage. Um, but when I was in a coma, they told my parents, like, when she wakes up, she's probably not going to know who you are, know who she is, know where she's at. She's going to be a different person. And it was a miracle that, I woke up totally fine. And I woke up actually joking. I remember the nurses asking me, and this is before I could see visually. I remember them saying, "Do you know who the president is?" And I said, "Well, it's Bill Clinton, but Hillary really runs the country." And I remember hearing them laugh. And that's the first memory. And I actually haven't talked about that since I was 14, but that was the first memory that I had coming out of it, was that question.
Wow, that is
So
quite the
maybe near
story.
death. I don't know. It wasn't good. I'll say that.
Yeah. Wow. Um, and then where did you go to dental school? And then after dental school, did you go right into private practice or did you associate for a while? Tell me what happened there.
So I did dental school. I'm from a small town in Illinois. So I did my schooling at University of Illinois in Chicago. And the goal was for me to always come back and take over my small town dentist practice, the one who inspired me to go into dentistry. I was a dental assistant for his practice for 6 years through school. So that was always my dream, was to take over, Dr. Burns's practice. But I graduated in 2010 in the middle of the recession. And so
Mm.
dentists were not hiring at the time. And I was number 2 in my class and had off the chart board scores. I couldn't specialize, or I felt like I couldn't specialize because I had so much debt. I paid for my own undergrad and dental school, that in my mind, I was like, I just have to get a job. But unfortunately, no one was hiring because of the economy. They either wanted a residency program or 2 years of experience, and I had neither. And so I knew I wanted to come to Colorado because I had done an internship out here my senior year and just loved Colorado. And so I sent out over 50 resumes and job applications. Back then, you had to mail them. They weren't, applying online. And I got only 2 interviews, and they were both from corporate dental organizations here in Colorado. And so I ended up signing with one of them. So I went right into the DSO market in 2010 and stayed there until the end of 2022.
And so you were in the DSO market really for your entire
Mm-hmm.
career. What was that
Yeah.
like as a young dentist? And then tell me about as you started to get more experience. Take me through that whole process and experience with the DSO.
Yeah, I actually really loved it. What I liked about it is when I went into practice, I had and this isn't a plug for DSO. I'm just saying my experience. I started in an office, and my first day before I even had a license, the doctor there said Friday's my last day, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But because I was part of a network, I was able to reach out to a lot of other dentists that were part of the network that were within close proximity to me. So I felt supported and secure that I could, reach out to any dentist really in the organization, but especially in my geographical area, to get support and mentorship. So I felt like my ramp time as a new grad was a lot faster and took less time than a lot of my friends in private practice. A lot of people I graduated with had to work 2 or 3 private practice jobs, whereas like I was fully dedicated to one office, one location with the DSO. So I was fortunate with that. It also gave me the opportunity to expand into ownership. So I got to own a lot of practices. I also got to learn how to coach and mentor and teach other doctors, which I found is a major passion of mine. So, I have nothing but positive things to say. And I know every DSO is different. But I actually had a really good experience with it, and it really put my career on a really nice trajectory.
Wow. So you actually went from right out of school to actually owning
Mm-hmm.
locations. And now, did you end up selling your shares and your locations?
I did. So my first year out of school, I started in June, and by October that year, they had asked me to purchase the location I was in, because the office I started in was the worst office in the region. And after I was there for just a very short period of time, it became the top office. So they said, "Will you buy this?" And by the way, we're opening up other offices around your location. Can you buy 2 others? So my first year out of school, I owned 3 dental practices, which is insane. Like no other, very few other dentists, I think their first year out of school can do 3 practices. And then it just kept expanding from there. I was in Colorado, and then I went to New Mexico, and then Utah, and then Georgia, and then Florida. So I was able to build quite a little empire practices, and then I ended up selling off all my equity positions at the end of 2022.
What was your story to success there? You said you started with the worst
Yeah.
practice, but you turned it around. How did you do
Yeah.
that?
Um, in my own practice, the success came from wanting to work as hard as I absolutely could. I love working, and I think you do too. That's what we were talking about before we started. I love working. And from my own personal experience, I know how important dentistry is. And I've been there. I've been the patient, right? I've had so many surgeries. I've had 9 reconstructive facial surgeries. I've had my jaw broken twice. My right TMJ is my rib bone. I've had every dental procedure under the moon performed on me. So I know what it's like to be in the chair, and I know how important these procedures are. And so I think that just emulated when I would communicate with patients. And so every patient that said yes, I wanted to treat. And so there was never oh, come back tomorrow, or, oh, we'll reschedule you for next week. It was always, if you want to do it, I will stay here till 9 or 10 o'clock at night and make sure you get the care that you want. And so I had that mentality. And I think, that's just kind of contagious, right? And so more and more people wanted to come, and the more people I would treat, the more they would refer their friends and family. And so it just kind of snowballed. And I'm a really big believer in efficient systems and processes. So I put a system and process in place for everything in my practice. Because I don't want people to have to think. I don't want anyone to live in the gray area. So systems and processes are really important. And then the last thing is just training and education. So I really love coaching and mentoring my team, and specifically my doctors. And that's actually how I was able to scale to so many practices, is I spend so much time coaching other doctors to do what I do. Because I just think the more dentistry we can deliver, and the better we can deliver it, the healthier the patients will be, which is a win-win for everybody.
That's great advice. Now, personally, I've been involved with implants for over 20 years. My second book was the stress-free dental implants. Tell me all about your experiences with dental implants.
Yes. Oh, I love this question. Thank you. So, actually, it's because of my experience why I got into this as a GP. So when I busted my face, I ended up losing number 10 and 23. Well, I lost a bunch of teeth, but they were able to reimplant a lot of them. But 10 and 23, I fractured my jaw right through those areas. And so they couldn't put the implants back. At the time that all this was happening and they wired my jaw shut, of course, they weren't like, oh, let's try and, realign the bone and put some grafting material and stuff in there. Right. No, they were just like, let's just put some plates and nuts and bolts and screws and wire her shut, and hopefully she'll heal. And so I had really major bone defects because of those jaw fractures. So I actually was really fortunate to lose those teeth, because when my jaw was wired shut, I could actually put little pieces of food through those areas. But anyway, so when I got my wires off, of course, I was too young for implants. So I had to wear flippers. Now, being a high school girl and wearing flippers to school is humiliating, because some days I would forget my teeth, right? And I'd be at my locker and I would turn around and say hi to my friends and smile with 2 missing teeth. And they would say, hey, Katie, you've lost your teeth, or you forgot your teeth. I'd have to go home and pick up my flippers, or sometimes I would throw them away. Like, you're not responsible at that age, right? And
No.
I mean, it was humiliating, absolutely humiliating. And so I learned to talk without showing my teeth. I, didn't really smile that much. I became really introverted. And then my senior year of high school, when I was able to get implants, there was no one within a 90-mile vicinity of where I lived that could perform that procedure. And I come from a small town. I come from a very blue collar family that had limited funds, limited finances, limited resources. And so for them to have to take time off of work multiple appointments to get me 60, 90 miles to an oral surgeon that could treat me. That was really hard financially on my family. And so I remember them taking me back and forth to an oral surgeon out of Bloomington, Illinois. And they wanted to try and do, some grafting. Back then they did, block grafts. They didn't really have particulate. So I underwent one of the surgeries. They decided they couldn't, for whatever reason, do the bone graft. I just remember waking up and them saying, we couldn't do it. But they did put in number 10. However, because there was no bone, the implant was placed so far facially that to this day, I have terrible recession. You can see the titanium through the gum tissue. I have a low lip line, thank God, so it hides it. But then on the bottom, I had such a bad concavity and defect that they weren't able to graft it into an implant. So that was multiple procedures. And so I just thought to myself, and then I went back to my restorative dentist and he was like, I don't know how to restore this implant. And so he put an abutment and a crown on that was always loose. And I had pus, I had a fistula and pus always coming out of the implant. And I remember being told like, well, this is why we don't get implants. And we're just going to leave this in here until it fails and we'll take it out and do a bridge. And I'm in high school and being told this. And it wasn't until I got to dental school, they took a 3D pano of me. We were learning to take panos. And so someone took a pano of me and I had a massive cyst that had formed from this infection. And it ended up turning number 11 necrotic. So I had to get a root canal retreat, ended up losing number 11 years later, had to get a retreat or an apico on 9. I mean, it was just a disaster. And it was all because the abutment was the wrong size for the implant. Wrong abutment company, wrong size. So anyway, long story short, no patient should ever have to go through infection the amount of damage that did to my systemic health, right, is terrifying. And the amount of time and energy and emotion damage that did to me is heartbreaking. And so I made it my mission to try and educate every GP dentist in America because I don't want patients to miss out on such a great treatment modality. So that's how I got into implants. Long story.
And now, how do you recommend other GPs to get involved with implants? And what's your technology like? Do you have a CBCT? Do you do guided implants? Tell me all about that.
So I do now. So now, and that's the thing is, I feel like getting into implants as a GP is so easy now because there's so much technology out there that allows us to perform the procedure safely versus, decades ago, we were really relying on skill to make sure that we were doing these procedures safely. But now there's a lot of, I feel like, bumpers in the procedure. So yes, I use CBCT. Even on non-implant stuff, every patient of mine gets a CBCT. Guided surgery, yes, when needed, for sure. I do a lot of immediate implants. I think that is a really important service for patients, immediate implants and immediate temporization. So yeah.
And now tell me about you've said so much, but you have a new practice that's going to be coming out, and it's called the Collective Health Society. And you said that's going to be opening in February. I love that name. That is such a great name. But this is not your traditional dental office. Can you explain all about the new practice you're opening up?
Sure. So I think, as you can tell by now, I'm really into this idea of systemic health, right? Because everything is connected. And what I found in my practice is I would be speaking one language, or I'd want patients to go get certain tests done or have certain conditions checked by their physician. And either they didn't have a physician, or the wait time was too long, or the physician wasn't up to date on a lot of these things. And that was very frustrating for me because I felt like, as a dentist, I can only affect so much. If no one else is helping me make the patient healthy, my work is only going to go so far. So my new idea with my new practice is to open up a collective health society, which is where we put a bunch of different health modalities all under one roof so that patients have the ultimate access to all the care that's needed to make them healthy. So we have a fully integrated medical dental clinic That includes functional medicine doctors, cardiologists, endocrinologists, chiropractors, and acupuncturists. We also are going to do IV peptide therapy. And then I have a separate airway sleep apnea clinic where we're going to treat sleep disordered breathing and myofunctional issues. And then I have a training and education center located there as well. So that way we can help educate patients and clinicians all over the country on this new method of practice. So I'm really excited about it. And hopefully February. Yes, we're on track for February.
And tell me about saliva testing.
Yeah. Saliva testing is so important. It's been out there for a long time. I've been doing it for about 10 years. So there's all different kinds of saliva testing. Saliva is really the new blood. I mean, you can check for hormones, you can check inflammatory markers, viruses. You can check the microbiome of the mouth to see if it's, anaerobic or aerobic. You can check enzyme levels such as MMP8 to see what's going on systemically in terms of collagen breakdown. So saliva testing is going to be a big component of this because I believe we have to have diagnostic testing, especially in dentistry, if we want to affect whole health. And we do now, which is exciting.
And tell me about your book. You wrote a book as well.
I did. So I wrote a book after I'd sold off all my practices. It's called Saved by the Mouth. It's a book all about how the mouth affects every system in the body. So every chapter is dives into a specific organ system. So we have a chapter on heart health, on diabetes, brain health, gut health, fertility is a big one, and longevity even. And so I tell a real patient story from my practice of someone who came in with a systemic condition. We treated their oral condition and then their systemic condition improved or went away. So it's a really easy read. I try and make it as fun and entertaining as oral health can be. So it's a really cheeky, easy read, I would say, but it's been a great success.
All right, let's wrap up as I like to do with 2 final questions. The first one is, how do we get a hold of you? How do we find out more about what you're up to? And then the second question is, what advice would you give to the young dentists out there?
So best 2 good ways to find me is on Instagram, very active on Instagram. So at Katie Lee DDS. And then through my website, which is katieleedds.com, you can contact me there as well. And I'm posting all over Instagram about just what it's like to build this new clinic, all the trials and tribulations that I'm going through, permits, you name it, it's on there. So check that out. And then the second question was what advice to new grads?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, what I'm always telling new grads is please do not assume that you know everything just because you graduated dental school with a degree. The amount of knowledge you have doesn't even get to the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's out there. So keep an open mind and be hungry to learn as much as you can as early as you can. Second advice would just be work harder than you think you need to work. I feel like a lot of docs coming out are, I want to work 8 to 3, 4 days a week, no weekends, no late nights. I want my hour lunch. I want to have a non-stressful schedule, which, all those things are great, but just remember it takes minimum 10,000 hours to be an expert. So the faster you can get those 10,000 hours in, the better, or the faster you'll become an expert, the better you'll treat patients and the healthier that they'll become. So don't be afraid to work hard is what I would say.
Excellent. Great nuggets and such a great episode. Dr. Katie Lee, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for listening to the Stress Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress Free Dentist.